And there
Oh,
we are.
excellent. They were going like, oh, look, this is the berry gloss. I really had to think about, do I want the berry gloss or the copper with
Mm-hmm.
the red? Anyway,
Guess
hi,
guess who was visited by the Mary Kay fairy?
the Mary Kay lady,
No,
the Mary Kay lady.
yes, but
Mary
I
Kay has
envisioned her. She
numerous,
just had a little wand and she
and
bopped you
she
there. Hello,
transforms
everybody.
you. Hi,
This is
everybody.
Agatha Christie. They watched. I'm Bill Peschel.
And I'm Teresa Peschel.
And this week we are going back after the Martin Gable 1962 Hercule Poirot pilot. We're going back to the master, David Suchet.
In Murder on the Links.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is very interesting about this novel, this is not one of Agatha's better known novels. It is her second Hercule Poirot novel. And she was really starting to grow as a writer when she wrote this book. And she had by this time had written numerous short stories with Poirot and Hastings, and she took this golden opportunity to marry Hastings off and send him out to a farm in the Argentine.
Spoilers, by the way, that's at the end of the book.
Yes, and he does return periodically for when she needs him as a foil for Poirot. But after Murder on the Links, you don't see Hastings nearly as much. And she just got tired of him as a character. She couldn't do anything about Poirot, but she could do something about Hastings, so she did.
Right.
And this novel, when we started working on the annotation, and let me find the advertising copy here, Murder on the Links, the complete annotated Murder on the Links. This is when I think we really started to learn. Oh, I see the book's trying to fall off the, we need a bigger office.
I need a bigger office. I need a studio, but do I get one? No. I get the little hovel under the stairs.
You have a very nice hovel under the stairs, and in the winter, it's the warmest room in the house.
That's true.
But anyway, when we started working on the annotation, really, when Bill started working on the annotation for Links, and this was a couple of years ago, like what, 2017, something like that. We didn't know. And it's only in the last few years that we've really come to understand just how much Agatha was deeply influenced by the world in which she lived in. She did not live in a bubble. She was not hermetically sealed off from the outside world. She went to plays, she listened to the radio, she went to movies, eventually she watched a little television. She read newspapers and magazines, and she paid attention. And Murder on the Links is based on, and we discovered this entirely by accident, and thank you, John Michael Greer, the Archdruid, for recommending a book about the Belle Epoque. And I read the Belle Epoque, and you read a section of it and said, damn!
Yeah.
This
is based on the crime of the century, but it was the crime of the century in Paris,
in
France. So it's the kind of, it didn't translate over to English, but in France you saw it a lot. And as a matter of fact, coincidentally, there appeared a biography of this woman not too long after we published Murder on the Link. So apparently there was something in the air.
Yeah, and this story, Agatha used a famous murder trial, and there were some really interesting tidbits in this murder trial, and it is a single she chose for the murder is a single incident in the incident-rich life of Marguerite Steinheil, French adventuress. And this is a picture that Bill found. I don't know if you can see it properly. I'm trying to hold it up there. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. This is Marguerite with the president of France moments before his suspicious and untimely death. This isn't the murder. We actually have, Bill was able actually to get crime scene photos from the murder, which was like what, 1905, something like that. The president of France was about 1899 or so. I get the dates mixed up.
Yeah, this is we got a picture in here of Alphonse Bertillon. And let's see, there he is. Get that right.
Yep, he's taking the picture of the body of Marguerite Steinheil's husband.
Well, not in this case. It's a different one.
It's a different body.
He developed the system by which you could take crime scene poters from above, and this is the one of her husband,
Marguerite's husband,
got strangled and murdered. Yeah, murder through strangulation. For
And
which she was tried.
she was tried, but Marguerite had friends in high places, and she mounted a spirited defense, and she got off in court, and she went off to England and married a peer because she was a merry widow, an innocent merry widow.
That's right.
And this story, there were weird details in the murder, really weird details, including Marguerite's mother-in-law who lived with them, who choked to death on her dentures while she was tied up by the thugs who invaded in the middle of the night. And Marguerite was tied up too, but she was tied up rather interestingly in that it wasn't actually designed to hurt her, which made it look very suspicious.
Hmm.
And Agatha took these ideas and ran with them. This story, actually, other than some of the details of the murder, has nothing to do with Marguerite Steinheil. But this shows Agatha's growth as a writer, and it shows her ability to take normal, ordinary things like the crime of the century of a French adventuress's husband dying mysteriously and turn it into something else. And so that is the germ of the idea that became Murder on the Links. It is a rather complicated mystery, and it also includes that great bête noir. I can't think of what his name is. This guy who gave this list of things that you were not supposed to do as a
Oh, Reverend Knox.
Reverend Knox. Yes,
Dr. Knox.
Reverend Knox did not like twins. There are twins in here. Another spoiler, folks.
Yeah.
But it's a fun novel.
Well, and in keeping with the French inspiration of it, Agatha set it in Deauville, a town on the English Channel across from Dover. And at the time, and I explained this in an essay in the book, in the back of the book, that it was a watering hole for English and for Englishmen who had to, say, leave the country suddenly under a cloud. It allowed them to settle in this place where there are a bunch of English travelers who were also settled.
They even had English language newspapers in this French town.
Yeah. So she set it there because, of course, there was an Englishman involved at the heart of the case, and there's Frenchmen as well, and there's a French detective. So this involved a lot of research into the differences between the English system of justice and the French system, which is very
really
different. The French system, silence indicates guilt. You have a right to silence, and under the English system, you have the right, not to give the police any information. In France, you're expected to cooperate with the police, and if you don't, then
you must be guilty.
You must be. The jury will take that into consideration. And at this time, of course, you had the death sentence, the guillotine.
Yeah, it is. The French justice system is so different from what you were expecting in an English system. You did a lot of research. You wrote a lovely essay on the subject, but it feels alien. It is an alien culture. It is not an English culture. They have a different history, a different tradition of law and jurisprudence, and it shows up in links. And Agatha does do her best to make sure that she got all the details about the French justice system correct.
Now, there's some differences, some small differences between the novel and the TV show. I think in the TV show, which was written by Anthony Horowitz, by the way, a very good mystery writer, you definitely should check out his books. He's kind of did some changes that's kind of straightened and smoothed things out, because this is a really it's kind of a complicated
plot.
Book. It's a complicated plot.
And he made one major change, which when I saw the movie, I've only seen the movie twice, because when we did the Agatha project, Agatha Christie She Watched, we had to watch everything, obviously, and we kind of watched them in date order, but I didn't have the time to watch something twice or three times. And I'm discovering as we go back and rewatch these things, I wrote the review after my first viewing, and I didn't like this film that much the first time. In fact, I gave it only three knives and for quality of movie, and that it was flat. But I liked it better the second time around, which I did not expect. And I did not expect that partly because of a major, what I still think is a plot flaw. Still think it is absolutely a plot flaw, but I understand why Anthony Horowitz did it. And this comes back to why Reverend Knox thinks you should not have twins in a novel, identical twins. And so there were things that made sense in the novel that did not make sense in the film, and it is, of course, Bella Duveen's attitude that she, um
Now, Bella
okay, yeah,
Devine, we
you
should
better go
probably
back and
explain.
recap.
Yeah, better go back and recap, because basically the story is Poirot is called to France. He gets a letter from this man who says, "I'm in danger. I need help." And by the time Poirot arrives in France with Hastings, the man is already dead. So he has his family. His wife was tied up. He was kidnapped by apparently a couple of South Americans. Um, and
So
taken away.
South Americans are so useful for this.
They're useful in this case. Now, he has South American connections, so he made enemies there. And then next door at the Villa Marguerite, there's this woman and daughter.
Bernadette Duvril and her daughter Martha.
Right. And you'll have to remind me, I should have done the homework on this.
You didn't do the homework?
No, I didn't do the homework. At the beginning of the novel, Hastings runs into this flapper on the train and falls in love with her and turns
Instantly.
her Cinderella.
Yes.
Now, is that Bella?
That was
because they meet up again in Deauville.
No, that's not Bella. Bella is the one who's in love with Jack Renault. I think you did a cast of characters for
Yeah,
this
I did.
guy.
I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to look this up as well, because Cinderella and then Cinderella's sister.
Yes, Cinderella and Cinderella's sister, and we would have to look them up to get the names correctly. And you didn't want to reveal what was going on, which I understand. So I cannot remember, but there's Isabel and Hastings meets on the train, the brash red-headed flapper, and he's very unsure about whether he should fall madly in love with her, but the hormones are pumping and he just, wow, she's just so wow. He can't get her out of his head. And she tells him one set of things, and then it turns out that she is the identical twin of, we'll call her Catherine, and Catherine is madly in love with Jack Renault, and they are on the outs because he decided to take up with Martha, the girl next door, who, and I will extrapolate here. It's not on the text and it's not necessarily on the film, but I will extrapolate that as soon as Bernadette and Martha Dubril moved in to the Villa Marguerite and she realized who she was living next door to, she started working on her daughter to make sure that her daughter was as desirable as possible to Jack Renault, to seduce him away from whatever girl he was married to so that Martha could marry him, inherit all of the wealth, and then, like her mother, become a merry, innocent widow. But Jack has also been, as I said, this is a complicated story. So Jack also had been carrying on with, we'll call her Catherine, the other sister. And he dumped her for Martha, but when the murder happens, it turns out he still loves her because I guess he's starting to see the cracks in Martha's facade. He's seeing through let me rephrase that. He's seeing through the cracks in Martha's facade of sweetness and light and, oh, you're so wonderful, and seeing the harpy, the vindictive, bloodthirsty, mercenary harpy underneath, and thinking, maybe I need to back away. And then his father is murdered. In here, they make him the stepfather. In the novel, it is Jack's father. Mm-hmm. Because so much time has passed. And again, I think this is in a way something that Anthony Horowitz fixed, because there's only like 10 years. Martha was 9 when her mother got off from murder, and now she's 19. It's 10 years later, and it's taking place in 1936 in Deauville, and a bicycle race figures prominently, which is not in the text, but you get to see a lot of young men competing in a bicycle race, which is always a plus. He made the story. He definitely streamlined the story by taking out the twin subplot. The twin subplot.
So in this case, Bella Duveen is a singer in the hotel, and Hastings comes across her and falls in love immediately. Yes,
yeah,
the
just
camera
like on the train.
slowly comes in, and he's just gobsmacked.
you've looked at me like that, I think, haven't you?
Oh, the first time I saw you in the restaurant, yeah.
It can
Now,
happen.
but and it's also in the hotel. You see, what ends up happening in the episode, Hastings arranges a vacation for himself and Poirot. They're just going off to vacation. Poirot left everything in Hastings' hands, and of course, he chooses a hotel, the Hotel du Golf,
Golf,
because
because
Hastings plays golf, and Poirot doesn't want to do anything involving nature.
yeah, nature
So
or
there's a
sweat. And all of Deauville, you see all these people. It is obviously a sports resort. It
yeah,
is, I would guess, late May, early June. And I say that because you can see the rhododendrons in bloom in the background. Those are rhododendrons, not azaleas, and the flowers are not going to bloom on cue. So whenever they were filming when the rhododendrons were in bloom. So late May, early June. It is not what you would call toasty, warm yet, but everybody is there for le sport. And you see all of these people with golf clubs. Hastings has golf clubs, which he tries to conceal but fails. Tennis rackets, cricket bats, bicycles. There are people who swim. Jogging. I mean, every kind of sport you can imagine. I'm sure they're out there, playing polo out on some of the fields around the place. It is very much a sporting resort.
but
But
then
fortunately, the cooking is exquisite and the hotel is delightful.
right. So it's in the lounge when they're watching Bella sing and Hastings falls in love
And
that Paul
he is so overwhelmed by Bella, he does not see Paul Renault come up behind them and tap Poirot on the shoulder, and they have this deep conversation about my life is at risk. I need you to save me. Come to my
Villa
villa
tomorrow
tomorrow
morning.
morning. I can't go into details now, and you can kind of understand why he wouldn't want to go into details in a hotel nightclub where there are plenty of ears and eyes, and Hastings is utterly oblivious.
Right. So Poirot and Hastings arrives at the house the next day to find the police already there. Paul is missing. The wife is distraught, and he meets it was Gerard, I believe.
And yes, Gerard
Gerard,
is
yes,
there.
the Paris
The
Suarte
big, the
detective,
big fat Paris Suarte detective
pipe
with
smoking
pipe
detective.
smoking detective. Yeah, a little nod to Sherlock Holmes there with his little calabash pipe. There's also another important French
There's
uh,
Stoner.
Beck.
Oh, yeah.
Bex. Yes, there's Commissaire Bex. And it's hard to tell who is senior to who, but Gerard doesn't care that Commissaire Bex might be higher up the food chain. And this is a little hint of and it's just totally unrelated, but it reminded me a little bit of season 2 of Les Petites Muertes and Commissaire Swan Lawrence and his supervisor, Tricard, whom he does not listen to. And
Yeah.
if Bex is Gerard's supervisor, Gerard does not listen to him. Bex recognizes Poirot. Oh my gosh, we have the master here.
Yeah.
And Gerard is like,
No,
no,
I am
I
the
am the
master.
master.
But you have this shows you the conflicting hierarchies because Bex is the commissary of police, so he's the local chief. He's the local chief of police, but Gerard is from the Paris Suarte, entirely different. Entirely different. It's like Scotland Yard to the local police, or the
Or
FBI to the local
the
police.
FBI
So,
coming into town,
so
and you have to work with them
mhm.
because that's the way it is, but they don't. And well,
Yeah. So Giraud is in charge of the investigation, but of course Poirot is asking all the questions. So immediately they spark off each other. He clearly does not like Poirot, and Poirot is kind of indifferent to him. It doesn't matter. And it ends up in a bet
yeah,
similar to what's in the book, but it's a bet between Gerard and
and
Poirot,
Poirot
in which Gerard will give up his trade.
symbol,
Yeah.
if he
His pipe
wins,
against Poirot's mustache.
yes, they will both have to give up a famous symbol of who they are. I just didn't want you to bend the book
I
since that's one of our sale books.
it's abuse on camera too. Well, at least I didn't shock you. No, you can. Oh, no, I'm wearing the collar.
You're not wearing a collar.
Yes, I am. It's right here. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
it's
guess
fine.
you are. You are.
Okay,
Okay.
but yeah,
We do have
but
chat enabled, right?
yeah, we do.
Okay,
We
I
do.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
So the investigation continues, and again, what Anthony Horowitz did was put more golf into this. It's Murder on the Links, but it's only the golf course next to the house. It's not like other golf books of the time where you have people actually golfing. Here,
Yeah.
he actually has Hastings golfing, and in fact, he finds the body
Yes,
thanks to
because
an errant ball
yes, Hastings is not as good a golfer as he would like to be, and I'm sure that's why he set up this golfing
holiday.
weekend, a golfing holiday, so that he could work on his golf. And of course, his stroke goes off. This is after he has seen Isabelle Duveen, the girl singer, and his he's not playing very well at all, and the ball goes off into the wilderness. And I had to ask you why they were hunting through the shrubbery to find the ball when they could just say, okay, you're penalized a couple of strokes and we'll just put the ball down where you can see it. But they don't do that.
Well,
And
this
I
is
don't know
also
how that they knew it was Hastings' ball when they picked it up, unless they're labeled.
well, it was in the right direction, so they just assume, and maybe he does have a particular brand. That's also a way you find out because he has a Titleist brand. But also, I think back in the day, balls were kind of expensive because you just don't have that many. You just can't go down to the store and buy Chinese-made golf balls that are buck each. So if
Yeah,
you don't want to lose your ball.
yeah, I guess you wouldn't want to lose
Well,
your
and as a matter of
balls.
fact, there was a particular
Like,
story where
I know.
it was in Mr. Davenheim. Our bum was at the edge of the golf course shagging stray balls and selling them back. He was making
That's
money
right. He
doing
was
that. So
making
the
money.
fact that people would pay for their finding your lost balls
It
shows you just how
indicates,
they're valued.
yeah, it shows that golf balls are expensive.
Yeah.
So Hastings manages, Anthony Horowitz puts in a whole lot of golf. And there's actually, even though this is Murder on the Links, other than the body being discovered in a bunker under construction, a sand trap under construction, that's the only connection with golf.
Hmm.
But in the Horowitz film, they put in a lot of golf. So you see a lot of top people on the golf course, and you see and Hastings gets to discover the body
Hmm.
when he goes hunting for his errant golf ball. And
Now they also kept the lovely scene in at the coroner where the wife comes in to identify the body. Now they could have just had Stoner, the secretary, do it, but well, you need to have the wife there because it's an important
it's an
clue.
important clue, because when she's told that her husband is murdered, she isn't quite, her behavior, her face, her voice aren't quite right. Poirot notices this right away. Even Hastings notices. And then they go to the coroner, to the morgue, and he unveils the body, and she is shocked. Absolutely shocked. And I think she even faints.
Yeah.
She is so shocked, she can't believe it. And so you can almost see the wheels turning in Poirot's head, where he's thinking, she didn't think he was dead. And now she sees that he's dead. That means some kind of a plot, some kind of a scheme did not come off the way that they expected. And I had to spend a lot of time. We walk around the block after we watch a movie, and I had to spend some time thinking that, oh, Stoner could have identified the body, and he would have known, this is the convoluted plot, because there is another body floating around, and
And it shows up later in the
yeah, it shows
story.
up later in the story. It's the body of a tramp. They find the second body in the tool shed, and this body is dressed in Paul Renault's clothing.
Hmm.
But he's obviously a tramp, and he's been knifed. And the coroner says, yeah, he was knifed in after he was dead. And you can see how the plot mechanism works, that Paul and Mrs. Renault, what is her name? Eloise. Paul and Eloise Renault, they decide, oh my God, we have a body here right in front of us. You'll be able to disappear.
Mhm. Oh, and don't forget there was also the iron rod found in the bunker that Poirot pulls out, and you're thinking, why is that there? And
And it is a classic Agatha trope, which is misidentification of the body. If the face of the body is smashed in, you have to go with what a family member says. You trust the family member, the wife who says, yes, of course, this is my husband's body. But if you aren't, this is why you should do real identification with fingerprints and dental records, because you do not know if that person is making a true identification. And I, again, rewatching the films and rewatching the rereading the novels, I'm surprised at how she will reuse a trope. And I think,
Yeah, this shows up in The Body in the Library.
yes, The Body in the Library in
Although that was more disguised than to have the face smashed in, right?
no, they didn't smash her face in. I don't think they
But
did.
they blonded her hair and cut her nails and
And made
dressed
her
her,
look like
and she was identified
by
by
a
a
relative,
relative who
falsely
falsely
identified
identifies
her. But there's also
Miss
in
Blue Train. Nemesis, yeah.
Nemesis, Clotilda falsely identifies the body as being that of Verity Hunt. And Mystery of the Blue Train, the victim gets her face smashed in, so you do not know. Again, it's to disguise another person, to
Mhm,
disguise the appearance of another person in there. And then there's the Plymouth Express, the
mhm,
mystery of the Plymouth Express, but I don't can't remember if the victim had her face smashed in or not.
yeah,
But the idea here, this is a trope that Agatha uses several times throughout her novels and short stories. Who is that body really?
right.
How do you really identify a body? Do you trust a family member? Or do you say trust but verify, and you go looking at things like fingerprints and other identifying scars and dental records?
Oh, and don't forget 1, 2, buckle my shoe.
Oh, yes, that was another false
Yeah,
identification
false
of a
identity. In fact,
body.
there's kind of 2 because the dentist in that story is not the dentist you think it is, and I won't say anything more about it. It's a great story, you should definitely read it. But again, this is what and then this is what made Lynx so complicated in that Agatha used a number of the
A
tropes
lot of stuff.
that later she would realize, I think, you need to pare it back, and that's one reason why it's kind of a little complicated, and then also there's Hastings actually impeding with the
Oh my
investigation.
God,
Isn't that
he acts
wonderful?
like the worst, dumbest man ever. He gets in the way of the investigation. He lies to Poirot. He lies to the police. He
He loves Cinderella, so he's protecting her. It's a lover
yes,
protecting each other, which also is duplicated in this story. It happens twice.
yes, it does. And he's obstructing justice. He's interfering with the evidence.
Yeah,
He's I mean, my
he should have
he
been
should
gone
have
to
gone
jail.
to jail
He
for
should have gone to
this.
jail. It was worse in the story, in the novel. He does it a lot more in it to the point where it's like they're going to break up. Poirot and Hastings are just going to break up because Poirot can't have this idiot
This
running
doofus
around.
running around impeding investigations into the truth.
Yeah, and in the end, all that happens in the story is that he brings in Bella into the room where the evidence is, and she steals the knife, and apparently the knife is supposed to be found in the body.
Yes, and it turns out, again, this becomes really complicated. And hey, the Anthony Horowitz changed this in the novel. Jack Renault had of course fought during the Great War. He was a pilot, and he had several paper knives for slitting open envelopes made as a souvenir. They used the wire from one of his planes, and I
Yeah,
really had trouble understanding that. But anyway, that's what's in the text.
yeah.
And here
Well,
you
it's
end
the
up
metal guy wire. Remember, they had biplanes, so they had wires holding the wings together. So you take that wire and you give it to a craftsman, and he crafts knives out of it. There was a lot of World War One souvenirs made out of shells, made out of gun parts. It was an art on its own. But that's a side story. But that's the
and
source of it.
I would bet that Agatha Christie saw a knife, a
Mhm.
paper knife made out of the guy wires of an airplane, because otherwise you wouldn't think about something like that
Yeah.
unless you actually saw one. And I remember spending some time on Google looking for knives, paper knives made out of World War One fighter plane guy wires, but I didn't get it anywhere. So I have no idea what this knife looks like. And so in the film, I guess they couldn't find knives that looked like they had been made out of wires. They had three very nice daggers. And I guess again, they're supposed to be paper knives for slitting open
Yeah.
envelopes,
But
because
they are
Bella Duveen has one, and Jack Renault's mother has one, and it turns out that Martha Dubril also has one. They're these identical knives, and I keep thinking, you're giving a lady a dagger as a gift?
Well, and
for
it has
for
the
for
family jewel in the hilt.
yeah,
It has
it has a
because
very nice
the
sapphire, but,
family was involved in gem
you could
trading.
take all of that metal and make a very nice necklace with the sapphire, but no, you give the favorite ladies in your lives daggers. This is really weird,
Yeah.
but it is an important plot point.
Yep.
It is a very important plot point, so that's what they did, and I guess they handle
Well,
it about as well as they
they could.
could.
Yeah, there wasn't really much for him to do because you get the impression after a while that, oh, there's actually two knives floating about. And then at the very end, pulled out of his magic hat, Poirot says, no, no, there's three knives out
Because
there.
Martha Duvril also got a knife.
Yeah.
Martha, the girl with the anxious eyes, the girl next door,
Yep.
the girl who is secretly a vindictive mercenary, vicious, psychopathic harpy, despite looking so sweet and innocent.
Yep. That's right. You can never tell, can you?
Sometimes you
And
can.
the girl with the anxious eyes is actually a alternative name for the story. When it was syndicated, somebody at the newspaper decided they didn't want Murder on the Link, so they just called it The Girl with the Anxious Eyes.
And it is a
And
line
it's a
from the
line from the
text.
text.
It is a line from
In
the
fact, it's
text.
one of the earliest clues that Poirot got. As soon as Poirot saw the girl with the anxious eyes, that stayed in his mind, and he started connecting it with other clues later in the story, before the murder even happened.
Yes, that clearly this girl is upset about something. Why is this girl this upset?
Right, right.
And in the end, all is revealed, and it turns out that Paul Renault and Eloise had a very good reason for trying to make him disappear. And even though he had committed murder earlier,
10 years
10
ago.
years ago, 10 or 15 years before, he did not want to kill anyone. And when this tramp showed up in their back garden and had an epileptic seizure. Somebody was relatively close to his height, male. Let's start with the most important point. It was male and relatively close to his height and size. You think, my gosh,
He has an
we
epileptic
need.
fit and dies.
Yes, he
So
has
that gives him the body to use as a
a
substitute.
body to use as a
We're
substitute.
really going in at this backwards because basically what he's doing is that he's trying to escape from blackmail since
Because
the
his
woman next
door
door.
is his blackmailer. She was the woman that he had murdered her husband for 10 years before, and she claimed it was, she was forced to go along. It wasn't her fault. This man forced her to do this. He forced her to cooperate in the plan to murder her husband. She was going to let him hang, and he escaped.
Yeah,
He
he fled.
escaped. He fled to South
South
America.
America.
He rebuilt his life. He met Eloise. He came back. Oh, our connection is unstable. That looks bad.
Well, we will just keep going and hope for the best.
Please wait while we try reconnecting.
Well,
Maybe we better wrap this up.
yeah.
Um,
But anyway,
no. It looks like we're fine again.
Okay, we'll see what happens. But the point, though, anyway, that's
It's
the
not
whole
cloud
point.
flare, is it?
No, it's not. That was yesterday.
Okay.
So I don't know what this is.
But Paul Renault, he's already done this once with murdering. He's not going to do this a second time. He has a God-given body that he can use so that he can just quietly disappear
Mhm.
with his wife and his son. They sent Jack away so that he would be safely out of the way. They gave servants the day off. They sent the chauffeur on the holiday. They were going to bash in the face of the tramp and then
And bury him.
and bury him so that when he was finally dug up, it would be fairly obvious that you would go on the clothes and the widow's identification that, oh, it must be him, but you wouldn't look too close and there would be enough damage that you wouldn't need to look too close. You would just assume.
Mhm.
And remember, assuming in crime is always bad. You should never do that. And all of this stems back again. Old sins have long shadows, and there is Bernadette. Do I have her name correct? Yes, Bernadette Debril, living next door to the man who had murdered her husband, and she had manipulated him into doing so, and now she's blackmailing him.
Yeah, because she had tracked him down. Remember, there was a scene in which he was in the bank in Deauville, and she happened to walk by and see him sitting behind stacks of money that he was giving to the bank to deposit, and said, I see an opportunity here.
Yes, and Poirot actually makes a statement that implies that police work has been going on in the background, that he has made an arrangement for an investigation into the de Bril family, because he says specifically she spent all her money.
Yeah.
And now she needs new money, and she needs her daughter, Martha, to marry Jack Renault, because then she gets final revenge on the family because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And Martha will marry young, handsome, hunky Jack, and then after a little while, well, he'll have a fatal accident, and Martha will be a happy, merry widow, and her mother will be a happy, merry, devastated
Grandmother.
mother-in-law.
A merry mother-in-law.
Something like that.
Contradiction in terms there, it seems.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that bothered me, it still bothers me about this, it made more sense. The convoluted plot made more sense in the novel because you had two twins. You had Isabella Duveen, who was Jack Renault's lover, and you had, we'll call her Catherine, we'll call her Cinderella.
Mhm.
Cinderella, which is what Hastings calls her. Cinderella was pretending to be her sister. And so when you get the grand conclusion, Jack realizes that he had truly loved Isabel all along, and Martha was just a mere diversion because she had made herself over into the perfect girl, and the perfect girl who would, I guess, they scratch their nose because their nose is running all the time.
You see their real self.
Yes, and they're not perfect.
Mhm.
Well, Martha was playing a role, and so she was perfect.
Mhm.
She had a goal. And it was not Jack Renault's happiness, it was hers. But anyway, so you have this sequence at the end where the two lovers, Isabel and Jack, realize that they are truly meant for each other, and they are both lying about the murder to save the other one from the guillotine. Well, here you've only got one. You've got Isabel Duveen. She was madly in love with Jack. He dumped her for Martha, the perfect girl who did everything she could to be, perfect for him in every way. And yet, when Jack is accused of murder, Isabel goes back to meet Jack, and she has to cross the links, and Jack is crossing the links too, and they both meet over the body. She thinks he did it, he thinks she did it, and they both lie to protect the other from the guillotine because it's true love. And yet, remember, Isabel was dumped by Jack, and she has now fallen in love with Hastings. And so after basically being willing to lie that she did it to protect Jack, after Jack's name is cleared and everybody discovers that it was Martha de Bril who did all of this, she runs off with Hastings.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this and thinking, what? If she was that crazy with love for Jack that she would be willing to go to the guillotine so he wouldn't die, why would she then turn on her heel and walk away with Hastings? And I mean, Arthur Hastings is a really decent man. He is a very kind man. He's a great guy. But what?
Jack is younger and has money.
Jack is young and handsome and has money, and I'm sure would be just more fun every way. But except for the fact that he cheated on her. He dumped her for Martha. So I understand why she would go with Hastings, because Hastings would never dump anyone like that.
Mhm.
Would never do that. He is not that kind of a man. But I just couldn't accept that Isabel Duveen would willingly sacrifice herself to the guillotine to save Jack. And then once Jack is saved, she says, okay, we're done. Bye.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so you
What?
see, this is an early experiment by Christie, and it didn't quite come off in some places. Now, after ragging on this for all along,
but I still
the
like this
episode
better
is
the
the
second
episode
time.
is great. It's well shot, it's well acted.
And I liked it better the second time around. The first time around, I really didn't like it that much, but the second time around, I liked it much better. And I understand some of the choices that Anthony Horowitz made, but I still have a problem with Isabel Duveen sacrificing herself, saying, yes, I murdered Paul Renault to save Jack. And then when Jack is saved, she says, okay, we're done. Uh,
But okay.
but it did make more. It was a easier story to follow than the novel itself,
Yeah.
no question.
And there's definite highlights. There's the whole golf thing with Hastings and Poirot. There's even a wonderful scene. Remember, Poirot bit his mustache, and after
Oh,
a
it was
certain
so
point,
great, and he
he's
just like,
you're gonna tell it. Well, I'm not
no,
gonna
you
tell
do
you
it.
the
No,
joke. You
no, no,
just
no, no,
did.
no. You did it. You do it. You do it. You do it.
the There's a wonderful scene in which he's at the mirror and he's got his scissors and he's got his towel around his neck, and you
And he's
think
looking very
he's looking
grim.
very grim, and you think because they had already made an arrest, and Giraud, of course, wants his pound of flesh, so it zooms in with him doing a scissors thing, and he snips off one little tip as a way of just correcting the balance in his mustache. I can't imagine Sir Kenny doing this in the movies,
He had
but
so much wool
yeah,
roving on his face, it wouldn't have
it wasn't
mattered. He
neat at
would have
all.
needed to take out a machete for that wool roving.
Yeah, but there's lots of nice lighter bits in between everything else.
I really liked the film much better the second time around.
In
I
fact, you're
will
gonna you're
admit,
gonna raise the rating on the book
yes,
for the
I'm going to
second
raise.
edition.
Yes, I will raise the rating for the second edition, and I'll do a little rewriting in the plot. I really did enjoy it more, and I expected to not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but I still think that I still can't accept Isabelle Devine's behavior. I
yeah,
still can't do this.
yeah,
I understand her having fond feelings for Jack, but at the same time, he dumped her for that brunette next door. He dumped her for the girl next door who was turned out to be a psychopathic liar, and she's willing to go to the guillotine for this man who dumped her. And then when he's not going to the guillotine anymore, oh, I'm done. I'm going to
okay.
go off with Hastings.
Well, and what's interesting to point out is that this is written by Agatha before her marriage to Archie fell apart. And I would love to compare and contrast how mistresses are handled, because I think in later books, like when I just read about the Seven Dials, where there's the bright young things, and
Eileen Brent and company.
apparently the two that hew closely to Archie and Teresa Neal, his mistress and long time wife, they are either villains or they're murdered.
I'm looking forward to getting back to that. The what we're
So
going to do is once we finish with and I will have a special announcement about something really interesting, but what we're going to do when we finish, we're going to do the next links next week is Les Petites Murder on the Links, and I do not expect that to improve at all because it was a terrible film and it didn't make any sense. Maybe it will be better the second time around. We'll find out.
Alice in a strapless dress, however, she looked great.
She looked great. Alice looked great. And unfortunately, this was another example of the total lack of internal continuity in that show. Um, but that's next Thursday, which is
Will
the
be
26th. And so we'll be live streaming Thanksgiving morning.
because we have nothing better to do that day.
That's right, because we're going to go to Delaware afterwards.
And for celebrate Thanksgiving.
Celebrate Thanksgiving with my mother. Mm-hmm. If your mother is 87 years old and still above ground, you should go over and say hi. Mm-hmm. But the week after that, this is Wednesday, the 3rd of December. Thank you, a YouTube commenter whose name I cannot remember right now, but you said that there was an Ida Ever version of The Unexpected Guest, and you provided us a link with it. And Bill, you'll have to put it in the show notes. And you watched it, and yes, it is The Unexpected Guest, an Estonian production from about 1990 or so, with Ida Ever as the villain's mother. She's a fairly important character in the play, and they changed the name. It's called The McGregor Case.
Yeah.
But it is The Unexpected Guest. We did not know this film
Nobody knows
existed.
that this
Nobody
existed.
knows that this film
it's not
existed.
in any books. It's not even in our book, and it's not on the Agatha Christie wiki.
Yeah, Mark Aldrich does not have this in his book, in his Christie on film. Nobody knew this existed. Thank you, anonymous internet commenter, for pointing it out to us. We are going to watch this film on Wednesday, the 3rd of December, and then we'll live stream it on Thursday. I'll write a review. It will go up on the website. And then when we publish the second edition of International Agatha Christie, it will be in that book. But This is something new, and it has English subtitles, a reasonable facsimile, so you should be able to follow the action.
Yeah. So anyway, we want to thank you all again for watching and listening, and be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you're up in the mood for it.
And we also are on Instagram, if you want to follow us on Instagram at Peschel Press. And we'll see you next week with Les Petites Muertes version of Murder on the Links.
Also called Crime Does Not Pay. They changed the title, by the way, because there's no golf in this whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, there was so much wrong with that.
But we'll get into that next time. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
And bye-bye.
Mwah.
We're done. And end stream.